Hey gang, you've seen videos that I posted on my wife's 2008 Honda Odyssey touring model, and I had some problems before with power steering and the pump and then the hose, and of course I fixed those, and I had some engine noises, and I just made a previous video where I showed how I changed the timing belt tensioner. So now I'm going to move on to part two of that, and to give you a little information. Yesterday, the check charging system light came on. I've gone online. There's been a variety of problems with these vehicles, and my default repair is going to be to replace the alternator. I don't see where anything else is wrong. I checked my fuses, checked everything else. I also checked voltage at the battery, just using a multimeter, and with the car running, or vehicle running, I was getting like 11.5 volts. Turned on all of my electrical systems, and the voltage, kept dropping. So basically, it tells me there's a problem with the alternator. I know there's been some repair work on this car or this van before. I know it was wrecked, and there's some stuff here that's kind of a little sketchy as far as things go. But I'm believing that the alternator is bad. So I've already bought an alternator from Advance, and I printed off this information from All Data, and basically they want you to remove this cover right here, and it gives you the sequence for pulling out the pins for that. That's not really a big deal. Whoops. And then part two of that is to remove the alternator assembly. Now this talks about disconnect your battery terminal, of course, remove the engine cover, which I already have, and then it shows you all the sequence for removing the bolts. And another thing it shows you is removal of the reservoir for the power steering, brackets, that sort of thing, and then removal of the alternator itself and the bolts and all that stuff, and then reassembly. And it shows you, in this case, the All Data has torque specs for reinstalling these. There's 33 foot-pounds, you can see 16 foot-pounds. So that's good information there. And then reinstalling the other components. Now one thing it also says here is to remove the washer reservoir. Now I did not print that off, but basically what it's saying is to get that alternator out, you're going to have to remove the reservoir here and this, and get them out of the way, and then I'm sure you have to manipulate the AC lines, but I'm assuming they're saying that the alternator will come out in this direction. That remains to be seen, but I'm going to give it a shot, and that's the video I'm making right now. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is remove this cover, and basically I'm just taking a screwdriver, getting it underneath this retainer. You can see here I haven't done these yet, and I'm just going to pry up on that center pin, and then basically that relieves tension on these things, and you can pull these out. So I've got all those loose. I'm going to get those up and out of the way. As you can see, they just pop right up. So I've disconnected the battery, and now what I'm going to do, just for my convenience, rather than just unhook this and have it in my way, I'm going to remove this reservoir. So I've loosened up the clamp here and the clamp here, and I've also siphoned out all the fluid with this little siphon, and put it in a cup that I can use later. And that way I just get that all out of my way, the hose and the reservoir as well. Alright, I want to show you my progress. I did remove that reservoir, and just take a note, even though you get all the fluid out, you're still going to get some drainage right here. So I have a rag underneath that. I removed the bolt here that holds the AC line to this bracket, and then that gives you a little bit of play, and I also kind of pushed it over a little bit. I also took the smaller line out of the clip so that I could move it if I needed to. Down here there was a bolt right there holding this to that retainer, and then I took the bolt or the nut, and this is also a 10 millimeter, by the way, so was that. This was a 12 millimeter nut on the top of the alternator, and then the clip has a push release, so that took a little bit of effort to get that loose. So that's out of the way. And then I got to thinking about this washer bottle. Now, I didn't want to remove the whole thing, and I know to do that it's probably going to have to come out the bottom. But what I did do was take out some pins that hold this panel in place, pull it out of the way, and I removed, there was one bolt in the bottom, there was one bolt, it's kind of hard to see, attached up in this area of the frame, and then there was one more up here at the top. And so by taking those loose, I can now move this around, and that should give me, hopefully give me enough clearance. I also took this bracket loose so that it was out of my way, and the mount for the washer bottle, the reservoir for the power steering, took that out of the way too, just trying to give myself as much room as I can. So now I'm going to take the tensioner, put a wrench on the tensioner for the belt so I can relieve the belt tension and get it out of the way, and then I'll start removing the bolts that hold the alternator in place. Okay, I've made a little more progress. The two bolts that hold the alternator to the engine are a 14 millimeter on the bottom and a 12 millimeter at the top. Now, that 12 millimeter went through, if you look at this new one over here, this top hole, and then this bracket was attached or created the backside or the nut. So this goes like that, and then this bolt attached it to the engine block. I just took the whole thing out of the way. The instructions had said to remove the bracket from the engine and leave it on the alternator, but I think it's going to be easier to separate everything. So I have everything out of place, removed, out of the way as much as I can. And the only other thing I had trouble with was down at the bottom. You kind of see, maybe there's a clip right there in my light, and that clip pushes into the back of the alternator, and I think it goes right there. Well, the problem is you can't relieve that clip, so I had to pry on it, and I think I broke it. I don't know that it's going to matter. It's not going anywhere, but just so you know, that's kind of hard to get out of there. Other than that, I'm going to try to wiggle this thing out and see if I can't get it up and out of this space. Well, it's out. Took a little twisting and turning, but I managed to pull it up through that opening. Taking everything loose like I did, paid off. So, pretty happy with that. I think what had happened, this van had been wrecked before, and if you'll notice, this little clip right here, you shouldn't be able to move it like that. So I don't know over the course of time if it had failed, but you can actually see there's a crack all the way around that. And so that may be what was causing the problem. I'm hoping that's what it is, and that by changing this out it'll take care of it. So now I'm gonna have to try to shove that new one down in there and see if I can't get it mounted back up. I want to point something else out while I'm doing this. I do have the new alternator close to getting installed, but if you can see right here, this bushing is what sticks out where the lower bolt goes in. And that bushing is a split bushing. And basically, I'm telling you this, that if you can do it, take a socket and a pair of channel locks and push that bushing outward. Because when you go back in with a new alternator, it's going to be a very tight fit, and you may not be able to get it in there. But that's what that's supposed to do. You move that bushing out a little bit, it gives you room, and then when you put the bolt back in, it compresses that bushing back in. And what I'm talking about with the channel locks is basically if you had, imagine the bushing here coming in the end of the socket, and you took a pair of channel locks and you clamped onto the socket and then push the bushing in, that'll make it move and give you enough clearance so that you can get the alternator in place. Well, everything's back together. They always go together easier than they come apart, it seems. The only thing I've left to do is put this panel back in here, which I'm not sure why they even wanted you to remove it, but it does give you a little more light, like through here, so you can see things. But everything's in place, and hopefully we'll see if that didn't take care of that problem. Yep. Doesn't say anything about charging system anymore. I still have a problem with something in the back of the van. Hear a little motor running, something with the AC controls. But hopefully that takes care of one more little problem I have with this thing. Seems to be running fine. Bit of a challenge, but hey, if you want to save some money, you got to do stuff yourself. So once again, thanks for watching. Okay, so I'm not completely done yet. I want to show you one more thing. There's the voltmeter hooked up. 14.8. Previously I was only getting 11.3 or 0.4. But that definitely tells me that the charging system is working once again.